I'm sure it's only a glitch, a temporary setback. Here's your look at the NECA Toys RoboCop ED-209. The future of law enforcement has arrived. From the original RoboCop movie, the Enforcement Droid 209 series stands nearly 10 inches tall and is totally in movie accurate scale with NECA's 7-inch RoboCop figures. This is a massive figure and finally provides a worthy opponent for RoboCop. ED-209 is incredibly detailed and features an articulated head, legs, and slide up and down hinge arm wing panels and posable cannon arms. ED-209 also features movie-accurate sound effects and dialogue. Press the button to hear hydraulic machine sounds, the metallic growl, warning, throw down your weapon, and have 15 seconds to comply, and more. Some longtime viewers may recognize this figure as one I reviewed before. All honestly, though, this is the second time I've picked up the NECA Toys ED-209, with the first one unfortunately taking a tumble. Not down by stairs, unfortunately, but it fell off my shelf years ago, and it ended up breaking this side cannon arm. I ended up trying to glue it at least, but it rendered the functionality of the articulation all but useless. I had it on my shelf for a while, but I thought to myself, I really want to get one that's still fully articulated, so I did buy this guy again. I did end up finding this one over on Entertainment Earth's website because unfortunately I couldn't find this guy in the wild. If you guys are interested and would like to get your hands on ED-209 if you haven't already, you can click the link down below in the video description. In the meantime, though, as I'm going to measure off ED-209, one thing may also be very obvious is the fact that I have a bit of a cold. So do bear with me as my voice is a little rougher than normal. I'm going to take it right to about this back section here of ED-209 that gives us a figure that's about 9 inches in height, or the figure's 22 centimeters tall. And for your figure comparison, let's bring in the recently looked at Ultimate RoboCop, which essentially is still the same RoboCop as we got before with a brand new paint color scheme. In this case, if we just slide over ED-209 just a little bit here, I would say that they're roughly in scale with one another. Now, granted as well, you can also extend the legs of ED-209, so if you do find that Ed right now isn't as tall as he should be, simply just extend out those legs and have him tower over Robo even more. The Enforcement Droid 209 series does require 3 button cell batteries, specifically LR44 batteries. You'll be also happy to know as well that NECA already include the batteries inside the machine, so you don't have to worry about buying it immediately after picking up this figure for yourself. The only other thing that you really have to do is once you get this guy out of the packaging is to flip the figure over, and on the back here is the battery compartment that you can then easily unscrew if you want to ever replace those button cell batteries. But right here would have also been a restriction plastic tab preventing the batteries from actually working. You want to make sure that you remove this. If you get the figure home and you can't figure out why the batteries aren't working or why it's not emitting any sounds, it's probably the fact that your obstruction tab, the little plastic piece, is actually still sitting inside that slot. Once that is removed, the actual activation button here is located on the side, conveniently colored in the same armor gray or armor silver that they color the rest of ED-209. I wish I still actually had that original ED-209 because I would want to bring the other one in for comparisons. This guy has been re-released a couple of times already. I feel like the color scheme, from what I remember, this one has a little bit more of a pearlesque blue color tint to it. Whereas the original ED-209, again, only working from memory alone, I felt was a little bit more of a gray finish. The color scheme, though, is fantastic on ED-209. And again, there's going to be a lot of functionalities to the machine, to the droid, similar to what we get in the movie. Picking up right now, getting a closer look at ED-209. First of all, we'll look at the dome here. The dome is very nicely textured, sort of has a small woven basketball weave to it, or basket weave. Really like the look of that. It actually feels like it's a different material than the rest of the plastic that they use for the undercarriage and, of course, the side cannons. It actually feels like it's a little bit more of a softer plastic. It probably isn't the case. It's just the way it was actually sculpted. I think initially in the movie, the front mouth, I'm using my bunny quotation ears for this, the front section I think was initially going to be flipped around the other way, but they decided they wanted to have it down as it looked more like a sad face. ED-209's got a really recognizable feature, a really recognizable design when you see it right away. Of course, it's got the cannon arms on either side. These, again, are articulated, so you can move them back and forth. I don't know why, whenever I do a review of ED-209, I always feel compelled to make the cannon arms like this. In actual fact, they should be facing down. One thing, by doing this, you can also see as well that these do rotate back and forth. And again, there's some decent articulation also there as well. This cannon arm only just has the regular gun turrets there on the front. and some additional wiring that they've got here on the side that feeds around to the front, or feeds from the front all the way to the back section here. It doesn't limit when it comes to the articulation, although you just will want to be careful when you are moving this back and forth, you don't accidentally crimp either one of those wires. This gun, on the other hand, as I flip this around to the other side, does have the rocket launcher. It does still rotate the same way as before, but then when you can also rotate this up, you can also then take the rocket launchers and slide those up as well. Not fully, but you can get about to at least there, so it can fire off one of its missiles over at RoboCop. And again, you can rotate this as well. Still has the same wiring there on the back as well. Only more show wires. They don't serve a purpose when it comes to the actual electronic functions of ED-209, which is, again, all the sound effects and all the dialogue from the movie. I've got some sticker applications there on the side. I don't know if you guys can actually see that or not. Some sticker application there also on the top. This more is painted as opposed to actually anything that's been applied. You've got a couple of little wires there on the back as well. Fairly, again, accurate to the way it looks like in the movie. There are things like, for example, screw holes, which is something that's just unavoidable just by the way that the shell pieces were put together. Unfortunately, you do get some screw holes there in the back, but obviously, you know, you're never probably going to be looking at ED-209 from the back. You'd be either looking at from the front, or you're also going to be looking at from the side as well. Now, in the movie, these actually would be able to extend. Running on pistons, the legs would be able to extend out, and they do also here on the toy as well. You simply just take the legs, push them down along the track, make a very loud noise while you're doing this, and that runs all the way up to the end of the track, giving a much longer reach than it had before. Of course, to make it not balanced, giving any balancing issues, you can also do it here on the other side too, and you just extend those up. Something you will want to be careful of, if you already have this toy, you know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. If you don't have the toy yet, something you will want to be careful of is these tiny little flaps on the side. In the movie, I think these actually detach so that he can actually extend the legs. These don't actually move, but you will want to be careful that you don't put pressure against these. And you want to make sure also when you're sliding the leg down that they're fully sliding down, because again, there's like a little lip of plastic that fits in between sort of these posts of plastic. You want to make sure that nothing gets obstructed or in the way, because those will most definitely snap. And again, when it's an extended form like this, you can kind of get a better feel. Let's just reach off to the side here. I'm going to bring back in RoboCop. So again, if you thought ED-209 was too short before, bringing back now in RoboCop, I would say, goes to about what the tops of thighs of ED-209. I'm using those bunny ears also as well. So there's some additional reach on Ed that he didn't have before. Like in the movie, the legs do extend out, which I think is a nice touch. Let's move the RoboCop figure then out of the way. The other thing, obviously, the thing that sells this figure is the fact it also does have sound effects. Let's just push the legs in here. I'm just carefully sliding this back down. And I would say more be careful when it comes to sliding this down, because when you are sliding it down, the last thing you really would want to do is put your finger against these. And then that would probably, you know, again, you would snap that off inadvertently. Popping that back into place. Let's have a look at the functionality for ED-209 sound effects. So I already mentioned he does have a little button here on the side. Once pressed, it will cycle through about 3 or 4 different dialogue and / sound effects. To press this, I also don't recall the original ED-209. While it did still have sound effects and dialogue, I don't think it was as loud as what we get now with this release. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, to press the button here on the side, I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so you guys can actually hear this. And again. For anyone that, of course, has seen the director's cut, which was originally the Criterion version of RoboCop, the shooting of course, the person that was assisting in the test in the OCP building, the process of him being shot was a lot longer than what we actually got in the theatrical cut. Anyways, again, pressing the button here on the side. And I believe there's one more, too. Yeah, so that's the last of them there. So again, like the sound effects are very loud, and they seem to be emanating right around this area of ED-209. There doesn't seem to be an available speaker slot, or likely the sound is probably coming up here also as well, but it's very loud. Very, very loud indeed. Again, overall, it's just a neat looking figure. Let's look at the articulation here for ED-209, starting first with, again, these flaps. The flaps are the tightest thing on the figure, so if there's a little bit of resistance when you are moving these up, just stop what you're doing. These do lower down, so if you want to have them a little bit closer to the gun turrets, you can also do that as well. But again, like these just lift up and down. This one is the tightest of the two. Once you have this a little bit higher up and out of your way, there we go, you can take the arms of ED-209 and you can extend them out, as there's hinges on what would be the robot's elbows. You can hinge out the arms to about there, and then from there you can also take these arms, and they are on hinge joints, or rotational joints. So you can take those arms and just bring them forward. You can rotate the arms forward. You can also rotate it back. Just make sure, of course, you're not hitting the leg in the process. And there's also articulation, so you can rotate the cannon arms also as well. Then for the actual lower legs, let's just make sure I've got that going the right way. The upper torso is on a rotational. It doesn't go, granted, very far. It stops abruptly because, of course, there's so much going on the undercarriage of ED-209. Stops about there, and again, stops only about there. So just to look at it from the back, you can only really turn it only so far. That's as far as you can really go with it. The legs themselves on ED-209 rotates forward and rotates also back. It seems like there is actually a ratchet joint working behind the scenes here. But yeah, you can rotate it to about there. If you wanted to, I suppose you could have it looking as if ED-209's fallen down the stairs. There's some articulation here. You can rotate the legs back and forth. There is the articulation that we've already looked at where the legs can extend. And there's mild articulation. Not much though, but you can rotate or hinge the feet just only slightly. It's a great looking figure. Like, again, I had the original one. I broke this. I broke the nozzle on the side. I broke the arm cannon on the one side, and I really regretted the fact I didn't actually have a fully functional ED-209. So I think I ultimately just gave that away. I may have had a friend who had a kid, loved RoboCop. He was one of my favorite kids' friends, or one of my favorite friends' kids, because he loved RoboCop so much. I ended up, I think, just giving the ED-209 to him. I did certainly still want one for my own collection that I ended up ordering this guy again. And then one last time, again, just for comparisons of sizes, sliding over ED-209 that we looked at in this review, bringing back in the ultimate RoboCop we just recently looked at here on this channel. I can now finally have the two belonging on the shelf where they always should have been on the shelf together. Two functioning toys with full articulation. Finally happy to have ED-209 back in my collection space. I probably could have just easily held on to the other ED-209, just dealt with the idea that the one arm was glued in place and I couldn't be able to move it back and forth. But I ended up just giving it away anyways. Had I still had that ED-209, it would have actually been nice to bring back in the original toy, because I do feel like, from my only vague memory of it, that the newer one that we're looking at in this review has a slightly improved color scheme. If you had the original ED-209, or even want to go back and check out that earlier video I did of ED-209, let me know if there's a different color scheme that's happening here, because this definitely does feel like it's a little more blue pearl-esque that they've added to the silver finish. ED-209, like the one we looked at before, does still have the sound effects and cycles through really loud sound effects too. So this may not be one that you want to play with while everybody is still in bed. It's sleeping at night. ED-209 also is one thing that I think NECA could get mileage out of. Considering we only really have gotten this version of ED-209 from NECA, and they have this mold anyways already in their inventory, I think they could easily release this guy again as a battle damage version. Having already owning this one, I would still be willing to put the budget aside to get a battle damage version if that's ever something that NECA would ever consider to do. Let me know down below in the comments section if you own ED-209 for yourself, and if you would be interested to pick up this mold again, if NECA was willing to do a battle damage version of ED-209. Also as well, again, if you guys are interested to pick this one up for yourself and have had zero luck finding this guy in the wild. I know I've had no luck finding this guy in the wild. If you guys are interested, you can find this guy over at Entertainment Earth's website, to which this is where I actually picked up the figure. I ordered it like a couple of days ago, and then I went to my local post office the end of the week, and it was already there. Shipped it super fast. Again, the link will be down below in the video description. Also as well, if you enjoyed said video, why not hit with the said like? And also as well, if you're enjoying the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. We are also, FYI, going to be looking at some more NECA reviews. So if that's the kind of thing you like to come back to this channel for, make sure that you're coming back, because there's definitely going to be a lot more videos for you. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.